Hey guys, and welcome. In this video, we are going over the user interface and how to navigation inside Substance 3D Painter, and also how Substance Painter operates. Alright, after opening the Substance 3D Painter, you will see this window, and there are a bunch of palettes and menus. So let's go and start with the menu. Substance Painter, like many softwares, almost every software, has a main menu, and the more important options or parts of this menu are the file, edit, and let me see. File and edit. All right, we are going in details, but first let's look at the other part of the display, and that would be toolbars and dock bar. We have some tools here, such as paint, erase, projection or stencil, and polygon mask and smudge, and also some cloning and material picker. And after that, we have a export or send to plugin, and some community assets, and also asset shop, asset marketplace, and live link and resource updater. So beside that, we have assets or asset browser. We used to call this shelf. So this asset browser contains all of the tools and assets that by default ships with Substance 3D Painter, such as base materials, smart materials, smart masks, filters, brushes, and alpha, and also textures and HDRI lighting. Substance Painter is using HDRI lighting for lighting the scene. Alright, after that we have the main viewport, and that would be by default 3D viewport, or let me think, my default is 3D viewport. If you open the Substance 3D Painter for the first time, that would be there's a divider, and it's going to divide the viewport in 2D view and 3D view. Alright, and you can easily switch between them by hitting F1. Now I have two viewports, and F2 and F3 for UV view or 3D view, 2D view, sorry. And also you can change that up here, 3D, 2D, 3D only, 2D only, swap and open 3D or 2D in separate viewport for your second monitor. Alright, up here we have hide geometry and stop engine or pause engine, and the menu that we just saw, and also perspective view or orthographic view, and also camera options. And after that we have switch to Iray render. At the right side we have some palettes, such as texture set list, that's going to show you your materials or your UV tiles, and layers, the same, the name says everything. You will be able to see your layers stacking together, and in the next tab, texture set list. And we have property palette that's going to show you your material property, and you'll be able to change the property of the material in here. And also we have display property that controls your display settings and camera settings and also viewport setting. Below that we have shader settings and brushes and also history and log. Alright, let's load a but first let me not clean. Let's load a sample project, maybe MITMAT. I'm currently in a 2D view, so let's hit F2 and switch to 3D view. In order to navigation inside viewport, you can use your mouse scroll to zoom, or hold Alt and slide your mouse with right click, or for the pan, hold Alt and middle click. Also hold Alt and left click for rotation. And you always have the option to hit F to go and frame your model. Also, if your model has a camera exported with that out of your 3D software such as 3D Studio Max or Maya or Blender, Substance Painter can recognize that camera and show that camera or cameras up here, and you can choose different cameras. As you can see, I have some camera. Alright. Also, you can lock your camera. So let's go to display property and go to camera property. As you can see, you have some controls over the field of view and focal length, and also you have a lock option or switch between cameras up here. Maybe I need to change my field of view on this camera. Let's switch the camera and unlock, change the field and lock that camera. And now I can even move inside viewport. And also as you can see, whenever I hold Alt, it's going to show me some key strokes or a key keyboard shortcuts down here. And if you ever hold any keys, it's going to show you the key strokes that corresponding to that keyboard. Alright, and also you can go to Edit and Setting and Shortcut and see all the shortcuts that sets default with Substance 3D Painter. Alright, now let's go back to default camera or free camera and go and change the field of view to something like 45. Alright, now let's start with File. We have New or Control N, Open or Control plus O. If I click New, it's going to show me a new project window, and you'll be able to load your 3D model, set the document resolution, set the normal map direction or format, and change the UV tile to UD, import your camera, and auto unwrap with some option that we go over these options in different videos, and import baked mesh maps and also some color management. Alright, after load the model and set these options, you can hit OK and your model will be loaded inside Substance 3D Painter. After you load your 3D models, you can go, let me put it this way, you need to go and bake some texture maps or baked mesh maps. With this option, you can transfer high poly details from high poly mesh to your low poly mesh. More on this in the next chapter. Alright. After you baked your mesh maps, now it's time to assign some materials to your model. You can use your base materials or create your own base materials inside Substance Designer, or maybe buy some materials from Asset Browser. After that, you can drag and drop any materials to your scene and drop that in your model. Alright. And there are quite a few materials. There are basic, but everything starts with these basic materials. And soon, after some work on a base material, you'll be able to make your own smart materials. Smart materials contain some layers that drives based on your mesh maps that you baked before. So let me see. In here, the artist made some dirt. As you can see, if I enable and disable the layer, made some dirt and drive that dirt in mask editor with a space map, a space normal map, and position, thickness, curvature, and ambient occlusion. And you can find these mesh maps in here: world space normal, ID, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, and thickness. Alright, now when you created your layers, you can simply put all the layers into a folder and right click and create an smart materials. As you can see, the new material generated here. Alright, after that we have smart masks, and smart masks are smart materials for masks, if that make any sense. Alright, let's test some of them. Create a new folder by hitting a fill layer. This is a fill layer, and beside that I have a paintable layer. Alright, now let's create a layer and go to channels such as color, metal, roughness, normal, and heights. Change the color, change the roughness, maybe a little bit, and let's create another fill layer and drag and drop one of the smart materials in the top layer. And as you can see, with these smart materials and mask builder, we will be able to drive this material with position curvature ambient occlusion over the bottom material. So let's delete that and start up here. We have texture set list, and that means our materials. As you can see, Substance Painter it's gonna make a layer of your materials and put it inside this texture set list, and you can hit isolate or focus mode to isolate your mesh. Alright, each of these layers are the materials corresponding to part of the mesh. So for example, if you export this mesh and assign a single material to the whole scene, the whole model, and import it inside the Substance 3D Painter, is going to be one single material here. And also, if I hit F3, you can see each one of them has their own UV. Alright, let's go back to 2D view. Alright, beside the smart mask, we have some filters that we are going to use in each and every videos. So let's discuss these filters later. And after that, we have some brushes and some tools. In order to use brushes, you need to make a paintable brush. If I make a fill layer and then try to use brush, Substance Painter telling me fill layer are not paintable. Change paint layer. Yep. Oh, sorry. Create a paint layer. Yep. Create a paint layer. Yep. And it's going to create a paint layer for me. Now, if I click on every or each brush and select my desired brush, I can paint with the color or material that attached to that alpha or that brush. More on that in the future videos. So we have some brushes, and also we have some Photoshop brushes, and we have some tools. And tools are basically brushes that attach the material to them. Basically, tools are brushes that contains a material, and if I use a tools instead of a brush, you can see I'm painting with a material. Alright, let's delete this folder, and after that we have alphas and also some grunge maps. That's I think, yeah, few of them has substance property, or they are substance materials but in grayscale value. Alright, we're gonna use these grunges a lot. So, and we have some HDR lighting, as I said before. Let's see the HDR lighting in action. So let's go to display setting and first tab. In the first tab, we have Environment tab, Environment Map, and you can find your environment HDRIs here, or simply drag and drop HDRIs into the scene and change the lighting scenario. For default, by default, environment opacity is 0. Let's change that to 100, and also environment blur to 0. Now you can see the environment here in viewport. Alright, let's dock this tab, and you can dock all the tabs wherever you want, something like this. Alright, we have some other options here as well as exposure. If I increase the exposure, you can see what's happening in this scene, and also in negative way. Let's put it to 0 for now. Also, you can rotate the lighting and change the effect in the scene, and the shortcut key would be hold Shift and right click and move right to left. Alright, let's decrease the opacity to almost 10 maybe, and let's drag and drop different lights and change the lighting situation. Alright, now let's see the other options, such as shadow. You can enable shadow, and that's going to change based on your light direction, and you have quite a few options, and also shadow opacity. After that, we have camera setting that we saw before, and post effects. We have quite a few post effects, such as color correction, that you will be able to change your saturation, contrast, brightness, and also temperature, depth of field, tone mapping, glare, and vignette. Also some lens distortion. And after that, we have anti-aliasing active, subsurface scattering, that we are discussing the subsurface scattering in the last chapter. So, and after that, we have, let me disable the post effect. We have active color profile, and that's going to change the viewport to something like Rec. 709. It's going to act as some effects, export effects or post pro effects, but based on this color gradients. And yep, and the bottom you have show mesh wireframe that you can enable and disable. Alright, now in the shader setting, we have option to control AO intensity, and also quality of your viewport, and also horizon fading, emissive, that we're going to discuss and this later, and also subsurface scattering. And let me see, and also we have displacement setting now, finally, and Also, we need to discuss this, I don't know, maybe 3 or chapter 4, I guess. Right, we'll see. So yeah, that's it. In here you can change also your shaders. By default, Substance Painter sets on ASM metallic roughness, and that's the best shader. Alright, those are old shaders that updated but not that usable. So there's nothing important here. Alright, now let's see the shelf. In shelf you can also create your own shelf or create your project shelf. Simply open up this, click on this object and open up the sidebar for shader. You have all libraries, project, starter asset, and your assets. Alright, now let's switch to brushes and search for brush, and that's going to hide our tools and show us only our brushes. So let's go to this folder and this icon, and let's save this search query. Save that in brush, right click and create new tab. Alright, now we have full assets and also brush assets that you can move and put it wherever you desire, or simply close that. Alright, in file menu you have open, and also you can drag and drop your project inside Substance Painter, and also open a sample here, for example preview sphere. And also you have close, save and compact. That's going to save and compress the template or project. Simply save and save as copy, save as template. That's going to save something like this template, and it's going to save your changes as template. Alright, now below that we have import resource. If you open the import resource, you can add your resource or simply drag and drop your asset into scene. And let me see, we have export mesh. You can choose between triangle and quad mesh, alright, or even export the mesh with displacement. And below that we have export textures, that with this setting, with this window, we'll be able to export our textures. More on this window or this function in the next chapters. And in the next chapters we are doing some custom templates for custom and render engines. Alright, now let's see what else we have. Oh, we are a drop down menu up here beside camera. So in this drop down you can switch between materials or M on your keyboard and single channels such as base color or height or roughness. Let me hit M. You can switch between these three categories by using C key for channels and hit C again and again and cycle through the channels. such as base color, as you can see up here, height, roughness, metallic, normal, and anisotropic, and anisotropy level, and so on and so on. So let's hit M to switch back to material mode, and now let's hit B to go to mesh maps. Alright, now such as same as before, let's hit B again, ID map, ambient occlusion, curvature, position, and other mesh maps. Alright, hit M and go back to material mode. Alright, there is nothing more to say, but maybe let me tell you this. You can hit tab on your keyboard and set the subsensitivity painter to be full screen. Alright, and hit tab again to go back to default view. And also in the shelf or asset browser, you can choose between small, medium, large, and list view. That's quite handy. Alright, let's recap. We learned a little bit of main menu, a little bit of tools, shelf, and how to import with a shelf or how to send to other programs. And oh yeah, something here I need to show you. We have resource updater down here. I'm not using this option anymore, and that's the old functionality. So that's going to show you which resource you're using, and if you want it, you can select a new resource and replace that, or maybe update a resource and update the shader, and so on and so on. Alright, we learned a little bit of asset browser, a little bit of panels such as texture set list for showing your materials or sets, layers, texture set settings, and also property and some other panels such as a display setting and a shader setting. Alright, so let's continue in the future chapters. See you in next chapter.